All right, so thank you so much to the facilitator. I'm sorry I couldn't catch your name because I'm offsite, but thank you so much. So I'll begin with a high level overview of the historical context. It was 2016, and hate crimes were on the rise in Ottawa. Places of worship were attacked with graffiti and break ins, etc. And it was the US election year as well. So there was an increase in populist sentiment, and early next year, there was 2017, we had the Quebec mosques shooting incident as well. So that's when the then Mayor Jim Watson, the then Chief Chas Bordeleau, and Alex Munter, Yasser Naqvi, Mark Sutcliffe, they approached United Way, expecting that there would be some kind of an alliance or partnership or coalition that would be in place for promoting diversity and addressing hate. However, unfortunately, there was none, so we couldn't proceed. But I started working in the background, started working with police, in particular the community development section, with Hamid Musa and his team. And the idea was to bring together all those who are working on, say, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Black racism, and homophobia, etc. So the idea was to bring them together under one roof for collectively, mutually reinforcing each other's work. So that was the beginning of the work. And before I jump into what we have achieved and the results, let me pause and provide you with the rationale and some facts to underline the importance of this particular initiative. I'll just focus on two key areas. One, the community safety or public safety perspective, and the second one is the human rights perspective. So for the community safety and public safety perspective, from that perspective, in US, top law enforcement officials have long declared violent hate crimes to be the biggest domestic terror threat, and hate movements have been declared a motivating factor behind the domestic terrorism. The acting secretary of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Chad Frederick Wolf, he believes that such movements pose a threat to the homeland and anti-government, anti-authority violent extremism, right? So, and also a joint intelligence bulletin from the FBI and Department of Homeland Security that was from May 2017. They found that the supremacist movement posed a persistent threat of lethal violence, right? So hate-based ideologies and the resultant violence are considered a national security threats because it has killed more people in US than any other form of extremism. So the same intense hatred in Canada is becoming a growing threat to national security. Now I'll go to the human rights perspective, right? And that is that the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights has declared that hate crimes infringe human rights. Similarly, the Article 4 of CERD that prohibits dissemination of racist ideas. So just a quick touch to that, but the point is that these were the facts and the importance of this work that motivated us to come up with this idea of a preventative coalition of community service agencies, because besides law enforcement and intelligence, you need to have such a preventative coalition of community service agencies to build community resilience and prevent hate crime. All right, so I'll move to the next slide. Let's fast forward to the steps that we have taken with all partners since 2017. So we started with an inventory of potential partners, their roles, and a simple mapping exercise to determine the root cause, right? So after lots of consultations and conversations, the simple graphic that you see on the slide here, it shows us that our conclusion was that the root cause for all the symptoms, and the symptoms are like anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-black racism, etc., etc. Those are the symptoms, and the root cause for them is hatred that you can see in the center, which begins with lack of education, lack of awareness, misinformation, and misconception, and goes all the way to extremism and violent crime, right? So that realization helped us to do a deeper dive into all related factors. It brought us to a shared vision for a collective that we call the United for All Coalition to address the issue of hate and violence. So it's the whole continuum, starting with the intolerance and then moving to hate and then extremism and finally violence, right? So I'll just quickly jump to the next slide to talk about the structure. So the structure is we have a coalition, then we have that coalition is supported by a rapid response committee and a table of champions, right? So in the center, what you see here is the two-pronged approach of prevention and intervention or law enforcement, right? So here I'll just clarify one thing that I've been asked, that why are the police here, right? What is the role of OPS in this coalition? So imagine a similar question posed to a health worker about the role of a hospital or a health department in the middle of the pandemic. From my perspective and working on this initiative for the past 5 years, OPS has been a key partner, not just from the enforcement perspective, but the role that the hate crime unit is playing, and also the community building and the community development and the preventative work and the support that OPS has provided. I'll just encourage you to please visit our website, unitedforall.ca. There you would see our action plan, and I would say that the contribution amongst all the partners, almost 50% of the contribution in terms of financial as well as in-kind contribution came to this particular piece of work from Ottawa Police, and you can see the progress there, and you can also sign up for our newsletter to get updates on our upcoming activities. And with this, I'll just wrap it up, and thank you so much again to the planning team and to the facilitator again for this opportunity. Thank you.